This is India Global. I'm Gauri Dwivedi. This is a special show where we talk about the additional tariffs imposed by the Trump administration, and we'll tell you everything from the hypocrisy of the punitive measures that have been imposed and their immediate impact on Indian industry. But first up, we start the show with headlines coming in. Trump tariffs have kicked in of over 50%. Washington has imposed the highest tariffs on Indian exports headed to America. Gems and jewelry and shrimp are said to be the most hit by the additional tariffs hit by Trump administration. These are labor-intensive sectors that are likely to also cause some job losses in India. Trump tariffs intensify calls for greater diversification for Indian exporters to other markets like the EU, the UK and East Asia, even as exporters seek immediate relief measures to minimize the shock from the sudden and unprecedented hike in tariffs. Trump administration evaluates the possibility of scrapping the H-1B visa program completely. The move will hit Indians, which comprise 72% of the total H-1B visas issued by America. And pop icon Taylor Swift announces her engagement to Travis Kelce. Viewers, it's the 27th of August. The additional tariffs on India's exports have now kicked in. Indian products will now attract a whopping 50% tariffs in America. Now, the 25% was announced earlier because the trade deal could not be finalized between the two. And in addition to that, there is the 25% that have been levied because of Trump's decision to penalize India for importing Russian oil. Now, I will tell you where does this hit the most, what should India be doing, and why India should not trust America, or at least that trust deficit is unlikely to be bridged anytime soon, given these unprecedented measures that have been brought in by the Trump administration. But first up, let's start the show with getting in Vishal Vivek, my colleague, for a quick update in terms of the tariff hits that have come in, the specific details that he could share with us, and of course the fact that this is now India and US entering in unprecedented trade territory.
So Gauri, out of the 100% things that go from the Indian territory to the US territory, 66% of those goods will have 50% tariffs now, and about 30% goods will not have these tariffs because they are exempt from these new tariffs that have been levied. Some of them include pharmaceuticals, steel exports, but on the other hand, those 66% things that will be exported, they cover a wide variety of products such as shrimp, such as fertilizer, such as carpet, such as textiles, you name it. There are a plethora of products that will have to be under the 50% tariff category. How much that will be affected, that will affect the people, how much jobs will be lost, that will have to be seen. But many experts, many analysts have suggested in the recent past that the effect will not be felt by India so much because the domestic market is quite robust here. It will be able to cushion that effect overseas. So the India will be banking on the market, the big huge market inside India. That will have to be seen. But on the other hand, Trump has not spoken in the last few hours on the tariffs that have been imposed on India. So that will have to be seen, whether there will be more calls, whether the negotiations will move forward. These questions will have to be answered.
All right, we leave it there. Vishal Vivek bring us up to speed with the fact that the tariffs, the Trump tariffs have now kicked in. 50% is now the levy that Indian exports will attract to America. Now, $48 billion, viewers, out of the total $87 billion of Indian exports are facing this additional tariffs. There are carve-outs, whether it is for electronics or pharmaceuticals, those carve-outs remain. Now, there are some sectors which will bear the brunt of this the most, and let's pull that out for you, the sectors that are likely to be the worst hit. Gems and jewelry is going to be one where the hit could be particularly intense, and you can see that the impact could be, the tariff payable would be 54%. In some sectors, the carpets being one where the impact will be very high, which is going to be 52%. Then another sector where it will be extremely significant would be apparel, where there are some sectors where already production has halted, it has stopped because of the fact that these products will not be consumed in the same quantity in which they were earlier being produced. Let's tell our viewers one by one this sectoral impact. Let's not rush through it because it's really something that's going to have a major impact on Indian industry. Now, steel and aluminium, the impact is going to be very intense. It's going to be upwards of 51%. That's there. Remember, steel and aluminium is also the sectors in which the earlier round of tariff war actually took place between India and US in the previous Trump administration in 2017. But it was that time limited to steel and aluminium. Let's move ahead and tell the other sectors in which this is likely to be impacted. Have you put out organic chemicals? That's another very important area where the impact will be very high. And then there is, we've spoken about carpets, apparel, woven apparels is another separate category. Diamonds being very significant, that's going to be upwards of 50%. Gold being the other very important area. Now, copper again, important from the fact that these are areas which are likely to see a major impact. We're putting that out about 25%, 30%, going all the way till 50%. Now, what this has led, I'm going to also then tell you about the fact that in appliances, in smartphones, there is not going to be any impact because, as I said, those are the carve-outs that have been kept out. Mattresses, furniture, bedding, all those are details that we are telling you in sector after sector, category after category, there will be an impact. Now, several of these sectors, the impact, as I said, the hit will be felt the most. Gems and jewelry being one. It will be particularly intense because America is the largest export destination for Indian gems, and $10 billion worth of exports may actually be wiped out. There are some reports that suggest that in the short term, labor-intensive sectors could actually witness a sharp fall in their overall output. I said that there are several ramifications for India as well because of the possibility of significant job losses. Now, to minimize this, there's growing clamor that India should diversify its trading portfolio. What could that be? Which are those sectors, which are those markets where India should focus on? Could be areas that we will delve into detail. But let's first play out what exactly is it that former Foreign Secretary Harsh Shringla said when he's making the exact same pitch, which is look at markets outside of America. Don't focus only on America. That market may be difficult right now because Trump administration is being unrealistic. Focus on other markets. Listen in.
Tonight, we will be at the receiving end of 50% custom duties for goods exported into the United States from India. These would impact mainly on labor-intensive products from India. We are working on minimizing the impact. One of the ways, of course, is to find alternative markets. We are looking, we have free trade agreements with Australia, UAE, UK, a free trade agreement with the European Union. This means that we can access different markets and we would have the opportunity to divert some of our exports in that direction. I believe that we have the most comprehensive, multifaceted relationship with the United States, the one that we have more than any other country.
Now, let's tell you how India stacks up against the rest of Asia. Indian exports now attract the highest tariffs across the world and more importantly, across whole of Asia. Let's put that out for you. More than Pakistan, more than Bangladesh, more than China. This entire trade war, viewers, actually was Trump's effort to try and ensure it puts China on the mat. But China actually has much lower tariffs than India. If you have that pie chart, let's put that out for you right there. How it is hurting Asia and how it is particularly hurting India. Now, this special treatment is reserved for India, which is also a key partner for Trump administration, even as it has given concessions to China, which is the largest importer of Russian oil, to Pakistan, whose biggest export is actually terror. As I said, you cannot make this up, and you cannot find any way to rationalize this. I'm not going to read out all of those numbers. That pie chart is self-explanatory, but the lowest, Cambodia, is actually 19%, where it is for Pakistan as well. 50%, the highest amount, is actually for India. And then it just goes down, going all the way till 15% for Japan and South Korea. Now, let's put out the big questions that we are asking, and then we'll connect with our guests to tell more in terms of why this needs to be seen in its entirety and why this is likely to not get addressed anytime soon. Let's put out the big question. First and foremost, how should we be protecting our exporters, given the fact that there are some sectors, as I said, gems and jewelry, where you could have as much as $10 billion being wiped out? Should India expedite trade talks with other countries? That's a big push that's coming in from sane voices who are trying to ensure that we navigate this better. Will higher tariffs hit India's growth? There are some which say that there could be at least 0.5% impact on India's GDP growth. Is that likely to pan out? And then the big picture question, which is, will this at the end of the day really come back and hit the larger New Delhi-Washington relationship? You cannot just completely isolate trade from the relationship. It needs to be seen in its entirety. Professor Arun Kumar, senior economist, Ajay Bagga, who's a trade and market expert, joins me on the broadcast. Professor Kumar, let me start with you. We've put out all the numbers for our viewers to understand just how much this is likely to hurt. You can't sugarcoat it by saying that there will not be an impact. We can minimize it, we can ensure we contain it, but there will be an impact. That is something that every analyst, every expert is saying. In your assessment, how long do you think this pain is going to continue before we identify some of those alternate trading markets that we are talking about?
See, earlier, before President Trump came, our average tariff was 3%. That has gone up to 50%. Now that's a huge jump. And as you rightly pointed out, our competitors, whether it be Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam, etc., they have much lower tariffs. So they'll be able to substitute our product in the American market. And therefore, all these items that you've listed, their export to the US will decline. And as you also rightly said, these are all labor-intensive areas. So in these labor-intensive areas, when these units shut down, unemployment will rise, and therefore overall demand will be impacted in the economy. Now, it's true that the demand impact may not be as great as, if the entire export basket was affected, but nonetheless, US being the largest trading partner, there would be an impact on our, growth in the economy. Also, it will introduce uncertainty, and when uncertainty comes, investment declines. And as it is, private sector investment in India has been rather weak, and that is going to actually suffer further, and that will have further effect. The third point that needs to be made is that while we look for other markets, everybody else will also look for other markets, because what the US has done is it has done very one-sided deal with EU, with other countries, whereas its exports will have 0%, their exports to the US will have 15%. So every nation would have an amount of surplus that they'll try and unload on others. So in effect, what will happen is that everybody, whether it be China, EU and other countries, they'll try and find new markets, and we'll have to find new markets within that context. So we will be in a difficult situation because everybody could be dumping and there's lack of trust. So we have this situation where we have WTO minus the USA. The WTO has been undone by the USA. And that if we can get WTO minus the USA, we can all cope with it.
Okay, hold your thought there, sir. Let's not get everything answered in one go. Let's quickly now get in Ajay Bagga also on this. Ajay, now the two aspects which I want to focus on is the growth impact. There are some who feel that there will be an impact on the GDP growth for India, whether that's 0.5%, whether it's 0.25%, is subject to how you read the data. But in your assessment, how much do you think it will matter? How much will it hit? And more importantly, how soon before you think we can identify those alternate geographies? We've already got an FTA with UK. What about some of the others? How soon do you think that's likely to pan out?
Yeah, Gauri, what Professor Arun Kumar mentioned, I would agree with that, everybody is now going to be looking for FTAs. There is more supply and excess supply even from the Chinese is there. So it will be difficult to find new markets. The government is doing its bit by trying to see if some of it can be absorbed domestically. GST cuts will be quite welcome. But overall, I think there is pain. At a firm level, there will be bankruptcies, there will be job losses. These are labor-intensive sectors, so there will be job losses in lakhs that will come in. And the GDP impact is anything from $25 to $40 billion at the least. The good news is it's a question of when this 25% goes off. It's not if Russian-Ukraine truce will come by. And then the reason for levying this on India goes away. If it is still kept after that also, then it means it's a very cynical weaponization of tariffs and trade, in which case then we'll have to see longer term issues. But as you were mentioning in the segment, the US relations are important for India. It is the biggest economy, biggest consumer market at about $17 trillion. So we have to engage with that market,
Yes.
but at our term. That is the bottom line.
Professor Kumar, which brings me to ask you that specific labor-intensive sectors, whether it's textiles, whether it's gems and jewelry, whether it's several of other such sectors, what should be the government's immediate step of measures that it can bring in to at least cushion the impact that exporters are likely to see?
The government can subsidize them a little bit, but it can't be to the extent that is required. Because there's a sudden 47% disadvantage that India has as compared to pre-Trump era, and compared to other countries, China, etc. We have about a 15 to 20% disadvantage. Now, this is a huge subsidy. So I don't think the government will be able to give that kind of a subsidy to the exporters, even though the exporters are demanding that kind of a subsidy from them. What the government is trying to do is to create the general market. You know, the GST reduction will not help the exporters because they don't come under that. They get a set off for that. But what can be done is to create the larger market, whether it be in agriculture, whether it be in, small and micro sector, because that's where 94% of the employment is. If you increase employment there by giving higher incomes, then the overall demand in the economy will increase, while the exporters will not necessarily benefit immediately out of that. But if the overall demand increases, then the investment in the economy goes up. And when the investment goes up, it benefits everybody. So I think it has to be a general kind of a situation rather than the specific thing of some subsidy being given to the exporters.
All right, Ajay Bagga, very quickly, what can India do or the government do right now to minimize the impact on exporters?
Directed support to the exporters, COVID-like package for the exporters to save jobs. I think that is the biggest thing. And second will be domestic consumption. So GST cuts are coming in. I think boost the domestic consumption impulse by giving these GST cuts.
All right. Let's leave it there. Thanks much, both of you, for joining me on this edition of India Global. Well, viewers, bottom line is that India has been prepared for a tariff war ever since it became clear that the Trump administration has no answers for its hypocrisy, which is it chooses to penalize India, which is not the largest importer of Russian oil. It wants every leader to bend and accept the Trump diktat. India hasn't, and it won't. Trump wants a free pass for American farmers in the Indian market. But why should India allow it? Why should India sign any trade pact that in any way hurts our farmers' interests? And to justify this, Russian oil theories have been made. But one thing is absolutely clear. Indians have a long memory. 54 years back, US supported Pakistan against India in the 1971 war. Till day, that hasn't been forgotten. These Trump tariffs, even if they go, will come back to haunt successive American governments when they will be asked, why is it that the relationship with India is not the same as it was earlier? All right, viewers, on that note, a quick break. We return with more news on the other side of India Global. Stay with us. Now, Trump administration is continuing with its overhaul of the immigration system, but what began, viewers, as an effort to target the growing number of illegal immigrants in the US has now become a campaign to target the highly educated and skilled immigrants under H-1B, a move that will have a major impact on the overall skill situation for America as well. Now, terming the H-1B system a scam, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has now asked American businesses to hire locals rather than foreigners. This is the whole MAGA argument of the Trump administration. Now, Indians do comprise about 72% of the total H-1B visas issued every year, and they will be impacted if this diktat comes true, given the fact that there is now a plan to completely scrap it. Trump administration also plans to move away from the lottery system to the wage system, where higher earning applicants will be chosen. A move that is likely to have an impact on Indians, but also likely to hit American businesses because there are just not that many skilled Americans available, which is why Indians fill the gap. Listen in to what Howard Lutnick said.
I'm involved in changing the H-1B program, right? We're going to change that program because that's terrible, right? We're going to change the green card. You know, we give green cards. The average American makes $75,000 a year, and the average green card recipient, $66,000. So we're taking the bottom quartile. Like, why are we doing that? That's why Donald Trump is going to change it. That's the gold card that's coming. And that's we're going to start picking the best people to come into this country. It's time for that to change.
All right. Update as far as Sri Lanka is concerned. Growing political turmoil in Sri Lanka. Court has granted bail to former President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was arrested last week over alleged misuse of 16 million state funds while in office to travel to England to attend his wife's convocation ceremony in 2023. Ranil Wickremesinghe has denied these charges, insisting the invitation was extended to him in his official capacity when he was the president. Wickremesinghe, who was hospitalized, joined court proceedings virtually from the ICU, with lawyers citing his deteriorating health conditions as grounds for bail. The case is to be taken up again in October, even as it remains to be seen whether it will add to political uncertainty and fluidity in Sri Lanka. All right, from the world of music and sports, as Taylor Swift just turned her love story into a real-life fairy tale. She's announced her engagement to football star Travis Kelce. Yes, the pop queen and the Kansas Chiefs champ are now officially engaged, and they're off the market. And, well, their Instagram announcement has pretty much broken the internet.
Swifties have more than just an album to celebrate this year. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce dropped the big news with a joint Instagram post and the cheeky caption, "Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married. Class is officially in session and we are living for this syllabus." Their love story started in 2023 when Travis tried to pass Taylor a friendship bracelet with his number on it at an Era store show. It was a fumble then, but clearly he made the ultimate touchdown. Remember this iconic Super Bowl kiss? That was the internet's soft launch for Trailer. From stadium PTA to surprise SNL cameos and jet setting across continents, these two have been serving major power couple energy. And now, after months of sparks flying louder than a halftime show, the wedding bells are officially ringing. No word yet on the date, but one thing's for sure, this is one Era store that's going to end with wedding vows. So Swifties, mark your calendars, or at least start making those friendship bracelets. Because Taylor Swift just went from singing about the one to saying he's the one. Bureau Report, NDTV.